I'm so thrilled that we can make 9:30.
I know.
I
Yeah.
mean, what time did you go to bed last night?
What was I doing last night?
No, what time did you go to bed?
Oh, I went to bed like midnight, so
I was like 1:30.
yeah, a little proper. So
I did a
for
little
con time.
I know, because we had this thing this morning. I was like a sport peach. I like shot up at 7:30. But I don't think people want to hear about our schedules this morning.
No.
I'm just thrilled to have you on stage talking
Thanks.
about marketing, modern marketing, how things are changing, what you're seeing. I think you sit in a seat where you can see, especially with CPG, how the evolving space is different from this year to next year and potentially from last year. One of the themes that I think everybody's interested in is this collapse of the funnel. What we're seeing is that traditional performance media, like retail media, is being used as a better way to do branding. We're also seeing like CTV become more of a performance channel. How do you think, when you think about your brands, how do you think about evolving, your marketing practices given some of these changes and the wind shifting in the industry?
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a big question.
Oh, sorry.
There's a lot there. I think to unpack. First of all, I think you have to analyze your brand position and maturity. Our portfolio, Kellanova, just for context, we have Pop-Tarts and Cheez-Its, Rice Krispie Treats, Pringles, Morningstar Farms, RX. So we have scale brands for the most part. And so there's still, for us, a really important part of our media that has to have a scale component to it. What we're layering in now, though, is that performance and that ability to find specific audiences and solve specific problems for brands and be a little more targeted. And so that's where we're using some of these kind of media channels that have those performance capabilities embedded in them. I'd say certainly CTV, those type, but retail media is kind of increasingly kind of higher on our list of where we want to test and learn. It's kind of the perfect place because you've got, both the audience capability as well as the purchase influence, and then the closed loop measurement. And so we're kind of playing around in all of those spaces. I wouldn't say we're doing anything yet at, kind of optimal speed and scale, but we're testing around a lot.
And how do you see that evolving maybe the back half of this year into next year? Will it be more investment in retail media? Do you have to look at performance and then look at evaluation? How do you think about linear versus TV and some of the shifts in viewing? Where do you sort of see your focus, I guess, for this back half and next year?
Yeah, so I would say a large portion of our media is already shifted. So we're 75-25, out of kind of more in the digital and non-linear channels. And then I suspect our retail media investment, which is already fairly substantial, but largely focused on our e-commerce business, search, display, again, kind of driving more the metrics around share growth or top line revenue growth. I think the increase in retail media is going to come more on the branding side of things, and be able to kind of connect those lower funnel investments we're already doing now with some upper funnel. That's how we're thinking about it. So
it's like the collapsing of the funnel, which everybody's talking about.
Yeah.
So much of what we do is about content creativity, meaning that even if you're getting in front of the right user, you need to connect with that user. How do you think about novel forms of content and creative process for your brand? Instead of just doing sort of standard banners, are you thinking about new content ideas? Are there sponsorships, influencer, bringing content to the open web, CTV? Is that something that is a bigger and bigger challenge, or do you think like that's gonna not necessarily be the thing that is a focus for going forward?
Yeah, there's a couple of things there. One, I'd say our content evolution, we are absolutely pushing towards more content at speed and kind of agility, meaning using AI tools, for example, to optimize our content based on audiences or based on the channel or based on performance metrics. So like that, more and more we're looking at technology solutions, we're looking at kind of in-house capabilities, we're thinking about how do we do that, continue it more at scale. So that's one side of it. The other side of it, yeah, we have, I'd say, done a phenomenal job in the collaboration space to create kind of really unique content. So things like Pringles and Crocs, or we've done some collaborations just recently with Hidden Valley Farms Ranch with our Cheez-It brands. We've done with our Club Crackers, Mike's Hot Honey. So we're doing things with really Pringles and Caviar, like really interesting, cool collaborations that kind of align to what we're trying to do from a brand standpoint, but then put that in the right channels, around social and influencer. And so it's a new way, not a new way, but it's an increasingly prominent way in which we're thinking about content.
And how do you know which of those things that you do is going to work? I mean, obviously, some collaborations are going to be amazing. Other collaborations, you're like, it doesn't resonate.
Yeah.
Is that a test and learn? Is there a formula, or it's really hard?
Well, it's a little bit, I was talking about this yesterday. One, we just have phenomenal agency partners that help us, with our Publicis partnership, our Weber Shandwick partnerships. Like, they're really good thought leaders, and so bringing some of these ideas to us. The second is, like, as a marketer, you kind of go with your gut a little bit. I think if you overanalyze, how is this going to perform? Are there risks to our brands? Then you question too much. And so a lot of what we've tried to do, I think more so, is just go with a gut feel of, hey, that seems pretty cool, let's test and see what happens. And our hit rate is better than it's not. So it's worked, yeah.
Can you do more? Do you think you're going to be like leaning into that this next year?
Yeah.
That's an area that you think is
for sure.
a growth area.
It's worked really well for us, yeah.
So one of the things that I think is evolving, which really wasn't even here 3 years ago, is this concept of third-party social commerce. So obviously the idea that you can DoorDash, cereal to your door, the fact that people can do shopping on demand, and they're pushing that. Obviously, curbside pickup, it's all changing. How does that change in behaviors change how you go to market, like where you go to market? Do you have to show up in those places, or does the halo effect from the brand marketing sort of get you there? And how do you think the marketing will evolve and change as these sort of digital to real world interactions start to take place?
Yeah, that's probably not a space that we're doing as much as we should be. I mean, we absolutely have a DoorDash and an Instacart and kind of Uber relationships. We're doing it largely from a kind of a media standpoint, just a pure media standpoint. We haven't, and ultimately where I think we should get, and most marketers should get, is where you're using it, again, when you're identifying the job to be done of a brand. So for us, we have a lot of brands that we're trying to drive household penetration or recruitment. And so if you think about a platform like a DoorDash or an Instacart, you can use their audience capability to say, who's never bought before? How do I recruit? And then use the media plus their commerce capabilities to close that. Social's also doing that. There's also opportunities in social. We use that a little bit more from an innovation. Some of the collaborations I've talked about, we use those platforms to more kind of market drive engagement versus kind of the just, purchase of our brands. Part of the dynamic to work out that, brands like ours are challenged with is just the cost of the pick, pack, and ship. That's not inexpensive, and if you have a $4 or $5 box of Cheez-It, there's just not a lot of pennies in that to be doing it, and so that's the balance that we have to kind of toggle.
Like, it seems like in that case, you have to be part of a larger basket, but you only want to pay for your participation in filling that basket with your product, and so you want them to fill the basket and get delivered by Instacart or Albertsons or Kroger or pick up in store or just even see it on the shelf. And so there's that tension between the brand campaigns that make it so that they're walking down the aisle and they grab it, and being more pointed about sort of that specific product as a one-time purchase to the individual.
For sure.
That's an interesting challenge to navigate, I think, going into how do you sort of do both? And I mean, you don't have unlimited resources. Nobody does.
Yeah.
How do you do both and be successful? Is it enough just to do the brand at the top and it will sort of waterfall down? Is an interesting question.
Yeah. No. The short answer to that question is no. That's not enough. For us, I think a big unlock in this that we're working on is just the measurement around these different capabilities. If you think about, a company like ours that we've been in existence for 100 plus years, there's many CPG brands like ours. We have, kind of tried and true measurement systems that have been based on years and years of historical knowledge. And we use that to say, this is where our best investment is. This dollar returns the best based on this modeling. When you're talking about kind of some of the purchase capabilities of some of these media platforms and tools, the way in which you measure them at is not really contemplated in our kind of historical measurement capabilities. And so you have to really figure out how you maintain your investment in the places that you're going to get the returns, but kind of push to the edge and really force your measurement to look at things differently. And that is harder than it sounds. It's much more complicated in terms of just systems, ways of working, how you account for those investments in your P&L, and those types of budgets oftentimes are kind of the flexible budgets versus the budgets that don't ever get cut. So it's tricky.
I mean, it seems that measurement is probably the hardest thing, because you want to try these different things and evaluate if they're actually working or not working. That's the key, right? Like retail media, working, not working, linear, CTV, social influencer, partnership with DoorDash. All those things could be a critical part of the growth given the changes in consumer habits. But you can't do them and not know definitively whether you should reinvest in them or not. And measurement seems to have not evolved as quickly as everything else. There are new measurement platforms out there. There's the Attains and the Fetches that are actually looking at people purchasing and they're taking pictures of the receipts. But that's probably not your go-to practice from a measurement standpoint. That's not the methodology that you guys have relied on for the last 20 plus years. How do you introduce methodologies that are not your core practice and then actually trust them to change how you or where you believe the money's working?
Honestly, honestly, that is my day-to-day job right now. That's not as easy as you think. But like Fetch, for example, is a great example. Fetch is a platform that we are testing right now. And you're right, like they have capabilities that are enabling us to get access to purchase behavior in a way that's going to give us data on how we know our investments return. And so the best answer to that question is I'm just continuing to kind of push these new platforms with these new tools, and then and hold the vendor accountable. And then as the performance comes in, really push it and influence in the organization, and help educate our marketers on why, and just hopefully kind of start to nick away over time and more shift. I think the other important part of this is you have to really push your media partners. We work, most big brands like ours work with, holding company media partners. And you have to really, really push them too in terms of kind of thinking about, these types of capabilities embedded in media plans. It's not the typical media buying process. We're kind of buying on reach and scale and impressions and ROIs. And this is around more around behaviors and influence and recruitment and penetration growth. So those ways, and the reason we're doing it is real problems of the brand, but yet kind of our planning cycles and buying cycles and all of that don't really align to it. So you've got to do both.
And that, I think you just summed up exactly what the challenge is, which is it's almost like the industry doesn't want to change. We're also comfortable doing it this way.
For sure.
But the speed with which you need to change, the diversity of those investments, and the challenge fundamentally is those are the things that are going to actually lead to more purchase, potentially more. But the measurement and the speed and the agility plus the knowledge of this is actually working and getting that feedback loop quick enough, because it's what I think what I've seen, and maybe this is similar to what you're seeing, there's a desire to test, but then going from test to best practice, which is we're going to lean in, going to be always on. It's like, oh, we tested this. It actually worked really well. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do this something else. We're going to test something else because we got to test something else because we don't know if that works or not. And you don't actually lean into something that's working because those are innovation bucket dollars that then have to shift to another innovation.
For sure. And I think that's why, the testing piece of it is absolutely critical, but unless you're inherently working on the things that are going to change the ways you work and plan and invest in the organization, and that's planning cycles, that's measurement, that's the way the finance team accounts in the P&L, that's the planning cycles with your agency. I mean, they're not the glamorous things. It's really fun to go test, on a platform like Fetch and spend money doing that. But unless you're making kind of the changes in how you work in an organization, you're not going to get there.
It's not going to stick.
Yeah.
You'll do it one, it's really fun. You have a use case, and then somebody says, well, we got another fun thing. Let's do that instead.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've made a career I've been in digital in e-commerce in some parts of my jobs for 15 years or more, and that's just that is the skill of that kind of marketer. When you're pushing the edges of new capabilities, you have to balance that with your ability to influence and convince the organization and work into the details of the ways of working in the organization and the processes. That's just got to be part of it, or it doesn't stick.
How do you, what you're saying is exactly spot on, but creating that cultural change, how do you think about, what would be the best practice to create that cultural change inside of your organization?
Yeah.
And with your agency, for that matter, too.
Yeah. I think, I think it's kind of top down, bottom up. You've got to do, the kind of the big education, inspiration, best practice, case study sharing, all of the things to kind of educate your organization and continue the focus on kind of this external lens. But you've got to then do this bottoms up where it's all these little things that you're doing to change it. And so hopefully those two things come together. I'm constantly an evangelist in the organization, and my team. We're constantly evangelizing for these new ways and these changes of working. There's not like a silver bullet here. It's just,
It's just hard work.
Yeah, it is.
Shifting topics a little bit, one of the things that I think you have is some of the most iconic products ever, right? They're in movies. They're memes, things like Pop-Tarts. How do you take a Pop-Tart, which was, I think, launched as a breakfast item, and I think you're repositioning it. I heard you're sort of repositioning that as an all-day snack because it's so iconic. What is that process of repositioning? Maybe there's a couple examples beyond Pop-Tarts that you can share, because I think that's interesting when you think about the growth of a product out of its category, I guess, and becoming something broader, and then how does that change sort of the revenue opportunities around it?
Yeah, well, it's the dynamics of the category. So the snacking category is is a growth category, and it's very multidimensional. I mean, there's all kinds of snacking solutions. I mean, we're all consumers of snacks. I mean, we know, right? Like, based on different occasions of the day, you're going to have a salty snack. You might have a sweet snack. You might have a snack that's got protein in it. And so consumption behaviors of snacking has kind of changed dramatically. And so when you look at a brand like Pop-Tarts, that provides an opportunity because it was created as a breakfast item. But now the way consumers snack, it could be an after-school snack. It could be your after-dinner treat with ice cream, right? And so kind of, I think introducing that conceptually through, all of the content that we've talked about, just introducing the opportunity around those other occasions and, being very literal with consumers on, hey, this is appropriate for this kind of occasion, married with the driving relevance for the brand. And I think Pop-Tarts is such a great example where we've really kind of reignited that brand. If you look at what we've done, with our partnerships around the bowl games, with the Pop-Tart mascot, the partnership with Jerry Seinfeld and Unfrosted, it's just driving a lot of relevance for that brand. And then we even have really cool collaborations where we did this is what we called Pop-Tardigan, where we created kind of these crochet sweaters, which were very hot online, and it was kind of in the Pop-Tart kind of style, and threw that on D2C, and was wildfire. And so it's the combination, I think, of the kind of literal introduction of Pop-Tarts to other occasions married with reigniting the brand and creating more relevance. And I'd say that team, our Pop-Tart team, has done a phenomenal job doing that.
Fantastic. All right, last question because we're out of time. Everybody wants to know, what is the snack of choice for Super Bowl? And what's it going to look like? What's your call for 2025 for snack of choice from your portfolio for Super Bowl?
To consume?
To consume. Like,
okay.
What's coming off the shelves, got to get it early. If you don't get into the supermarket and get it early, it will be gone.
Yeah, 2 snacks of choice. Well, gosh, this is going to be hard. I'm gonna actually give you 3. So one is Pringles Mingles. Pringles Mingles is just launching. It's a new version. Pringles is coming out of the can into a bag form.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a.
How's it going to stay intact? Like, Pringles needs the can, otherwise it gets crunched up.
Yeah, well, it's a new form of Pringles, but same wonderful Pringles taste. So that's one. The other is Rice Krispie Treats chocolate peanut butter. I mean, this is it's a drug. It's so good. It's just, you can't not have that at your Super Bowl party. And then the fan favorite is Morningstar Riblets. Morningstar Farms is our plant-based protein brand. And we've relaunched Riblets, which was a fan favorite to bring back, and it's a perfect Super Bowl snack.
So you've heard it first. Go out and get it first before they sell off the shelves.
Yeah, they will. They will, for sure.
Thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.